Here is how to comment during the Frankly Speaking show. On your computer, look to the right of the video. That's your live chat hub. Click the Say Something box at the bottom, type your message, and hit enter. Boom, you're live. On the mobile app, it's just as easy. Tap the live chat button right under the video to open the window. Pro tip, if you're in full screen mode, tap the screen once and hit the chat icon to see messages without leaving the action. Can't type? Check two things. Make sure you're signed in and see if subscribers only mode is on. You might need to sub and wait a few minutes. Keep it respectful, follow the mods' rules, and have fun.
Good day. Good day. The Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, has its president elections next month. Frankly speaking, those elections are consequential, and the JTA is an important national organization. So, frankly speaking, we are spending most of this podcast looking at the second of the two candidates contesting the elections. Is Darien Henry. We'll come to Dr. Henry in a moment. This is episode 212 for May 31, 2026. We are coming to you today from the Rio Nuevo village, a historic location on Jamaica's north coast. Rio Nuevo village. So you might actually hear some sounds and that's poetry going on from the location where we are. I'm Frankly McKnight, and we will welcome you. We welcome you, our viewers and listeners, and thank you for sharing your time with us. Today we are missing Winnie, but Desmond Richards, our other regular presenter, is here with us. Welcome, Desmond. This time around in the JTA elections, two educators at the tertiary level are seeking the top post. We spoke with one of them last week, Maureen Mullings Nelson, and this week we have with us Darien Henry, principal of Montego Bay Community College. Let me say for transparency, I know Dr. Henry, and we worked together at IRFM for years, and we've been in contact since then in his various capacities. My job today is to help you understand, as we did for Dr. Nelson, what his plans and his thinking are about the education system. Thank you for joining us. Please feel free to comment or ask questions by using the procedure outlined at the top of the show. Just place your comment in the section space provided on the YouTube channel, and we'll try to read them. Welcome, Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Franklin,
welcome,
and good afternoon to you and Desmond and members who have joined online.
Okay, and we have another story which is we're likely to get to, but we're not sure. It's about that 70% of the money allocated under the Solidarity Program, which has been returned to government. But we'll talk to Dr. Henry first. I'm starting, Dr. Henry, by asking you to respond to the argument that a principal like yourself, and one at the tertiary level at that, should not be seeking to be president of the JTA, whose overwhelming number of members are classroom teachers. And you as a principal should not be seeking to represent classroom teachers in this primary, secondary, early childhood stage. Please respond to that, sir.
Thank you so much, Franklin. And again, thank you for inviting me on your show. Good afternoon, Desmond. Let me first say thank you to the parish and district associations who have seen it fit to nominate me for such an important office, for such an important institution in our country. I think, largely speaking, the conversation is misdirected. And I think it gathered steam, Franklin, coming out of the compensation review in 2022-2023, where there were disparate voices in respect of what transpired post the compensation review, there were arguments which gained some momentum in the teaching profession throughout the education system that principals were the ones who benefited tremendously coming out of the compensation review, and that it is only teachers who should be a part of the JTA itself. Let me just say straight off the bat that I am a teacher. I am an excellent teacher, one of the best in the system, and who have been recognized globally for my sterling work in the classroom and even at the leadership level itself. The JTA is comprised of different categories of members, most of whom are the active members of the association. We should never perpetuate an argument that will divide the Jamaica Teachers Association. The fact is that a teacher will always be a teacher. A principal requires to be a teacher before he or she is appointed to the service as a principal. Insofar as what transpires in the JTA requires the best of leadership as it stands now. The argument is also put on the table that I'm also from tertiary as well. But I need to say to your viewers as well that I've worked in the secondary system and I also work at the governance level. In fact, I now currently chair the board of Landilo School of Special Education. So I am well embedded in the education fabric. And as a matter of fact, I'm embedded in such a way that my own views, my own direction, my own vision is now seen as first-rate leadership as it stands. I bring to the table transformational leadership where the advancement of our association is concerned. The truth is, where we are now in education does not require a division among us. It requires united voices so that we can be up to par in providing policy prescriptions for our country. So we should not be sidetracked.
The argument is that you as principal, especially at the tertiary level, can't understand, can't empathize as much with the issues, not just the pay issue, but the issues facing the classroom teacher in a 200 member school, or a 400 member school, primary school somewhere, or a basic school with 45 students and one teacher. That you at a community college can't empathize with those people. So you can't represent them properly.
The question of leadership is not necessarily only around empathy. What's happening at primary education, for example, is a travesty of justice in the education system. Primary schools are under-resourced, or infant schools are under-resourced. Argument around that tertiary principal not understanding what's happening at all levels of the education system is, frankly speaking, rubbish. When a school, for example, Belfield High, way up in the hills of Manchester, struggling with their infrastructure, to struggle on their shift system, struggle to provide teaching and learning. I don't know what this argument is about, that a tertiary principal don't know how to represent other issues. When a primary school like a Barracks Road Primary School, for example, they get an average $300,000, yes, for maintenance grant, and $150,000 per year to run the school, but it costs them $300,000 to pay the security to run and secure their institution as it stands. When they go over a school like Golden Grove Primary in St. Thomas, where teachers are working in the horrid and hot conditions, what are they talking about that people like me cannot represent the system as it stands? I understand, I've been there. I will never leave there. And I want people to understand that I will be an unmistakable voice in representation. What we need now is transformational leadership in the JTA. We are desiring stridency to bring home the point about the issues that we face right now. Teachers are being blamed for this and that. They're blamed for everything. But no one sees the lack of resources to bring home teaching and learning as it stands. So my colleagues have seen it because they know that I have the leadership skills required to advance their issues at this time.
Okay. Now, Dr. Henry, people argue that Desmond, go ahead before me.
Dr. Henry, you must remember that this is an election, you know. that during election time, all kind of stuff comes up in the election. You must anticipate. Remember, this is an election like a general election, you know. You're in Jamaica, you know.
It is.
Remember that. One of the things, though, and we put it with your competitor last week, that the JTA, in other words, let me just come straight to you. What are you going to do different? Are you just going to focus on salaries increases for teachers? Are you going to focus on the issues facing the educational system if you are elected?
Thank you, Desmond. The fact is, and I want to make this point clearly before I go into the meat of the matter, the JTA is a lobby institution that must at all times fight for the welfare and the conditions of service for its teachers. So at no time the JTA will be silenced in its quest to seek better for its teachers. That said, I posit to you, Desmond, that we're entering into a very important period in national discussions around the proposed education strategic plan. It is now, following what transpired and expired in 2020, the Ministry of Education at the policy level is now moving to craft a 10-year stretch plan as it stands. And these conversations will shape, Desmond, the future of education for entire generations. I am positing that the JTA must be at the table, not as an observer or an afterthought, but we have to be a respected and valued partner in this stage of national development. So this is why I'm making the point that we are much more than bargaining for salaries itself. But I make this point that teacher welfare, teacher retention, the working conditions of teachers, professional development of teachers, leadership preparation of teachers, and student achievement can never ever be separated. These, Desmond, are interconnected issues that must anchor any serious discussions around reforms in education. As president, when I'm elected, I will have to advocate for a stronger, a robust, and even more assertive JTA, one that engages our policymakers respectfully, yes, but firmly and armed with the evidence and the research and the lived experiences that you talk about, that people don't say, I don't know about what happened at primary school, that we have to bring to the table. I posit as well, Franklin and Desmond, that the JTA must be resolute in asserting its voice. We must not wait until we are invited to the conversations around the future of education. We have to position ourselves as an indispensable partner in shaping the future of education. Therefore, it is, Franklin, Desmond, that my vision of the JTA is not that it's not only related to policy, but we must help to shape the policy. So my candidacy is more around developing or galvanizing a discussion around the reforms in education. However, the teacher must anchor those discussions. If you're not doing it in the educational strategic plan, it will fail, I posit.
Well, I thank you for going there, because one of the questions that we raised last week is, can a president really do anything much in a year? You are saying that you want a more assertive JTA, you want to be at the table, you don't want a reactionary thing. But can a president really do much? If I were a minister of education and I get a combative president, I just wait him out or her out. Just wait him out. You have a year. What can you really honestly do, Dr. Henry, should you be elected in a year?
It's a fair question. The current governance structure of the JTA affords for 3 presidents: the sitting president, the one in waiting, and the immediate past president. I can tell you straight up, I initially harbored a view that there is no need, because you have 3 strong, strident presidents who are maneuvering the issues of the day. However, I've been talking to more and more teachers who are of the view, and I think I'm forming the view as well, that the time has come for us to have another look at aspects of our governance structure simply because the policy landscape has changed, yes, and the lobbying landscape has changed. It is true that a president who when campaigning, he posits certain key priorities, may be unable to realize all of them as he relinquishes office after 365 days. However, one should not acquiesce from the point that the JTA has a very strong governance structure, and this governance structure has 3 presidents. The forefathers of the association, they were presumptive about it. They were of the view that when you have 3 strong presidents and a sitting president who governs, who oversees the association, that they should work in harmony. Now, if the JTA's mantra is to unite and serve, we have to mean this, and it must also be replicated in our governance structure as it stands. So I'm of the view that maybe the time has come for us to look at it again. However, the existing governance structure can work, but if people come to the presidency with their own machinations and their own agenda, it certainly will take away from the mandate. So we have to be clear about why we're running for president. I'm very clear about why I'm seeking this mandate, because I'm clear about what the father of the JTA had presumed how the presidency is to work in the JTA.
Okay, now I want to, you touched on it, but I want to ask it the question in a different way. People argue that the JTA is constantly talking about salaries, and you pointed out that it's a lobby group, and your opposite number last week also mentioned that it has to be there. But how important are salaries and conditions of service to the poor outcomes that we have been seeing for years from our students? How important is this salary issue and the conditions under which teachers work to what we are getting out of the schools?
The truth is, Franklin and Desmond, no education system can outperform the quality of its teachers. And we're facing a silent and growing crisis around recruiting the best of teachers, developing and motivating and retaining talented teachers. Teachers now are expected to do way more, even more now than before. And the truth is, frankly, many teachers feel undervalued. They are overburdened and disconnected. And a stronger salary structure, one that mirrors what happens in the rest of the Caribbean, because as it stands now, and the World Bank proves it, that Jamaican teachers fall at the very bottom of where the salary structures are in the rest of the Caribbean. However, we have to be transformational, and we have to be far more purposeful in rethinking and reimagining our salary structure for Jamaican teachers. The truth is, we do not address that, which is like the crux of the matter. Then there are other issues that will not get attention. There's also need for better professional development pathways for teachers as well. The improvement in the working conditions. I went to Jonathan Grant and I asked a teacher if this was an oven or if this was a hot plate. We have to improve those working conditions. And there has to be a renewed commitment, not just at the policy level, at a national level, that teaching is an attractive profession. But Franklin, as it stands now, teaching is not attractive. I went to Mineral Heights Primary recently, and I asked a group of students, what are your future endeavors? Not one out of the 57 students I interacted with, not one mentioned that they wanted to be a teacher. And
what?
I'm telling you, 57 students, and not one mentioned that they wanted to become a teacher. And I'm saying that our policymakers, they need to grasp some of these signals. And I'm telling you, if our salary structure remains as it is, we will continue to have retention issues in education as it stands. Listen, Franklin, in 2024, we lost 471 of our best STEM teachers. What does that mean for our future industries and innovation? Are we just going to be a service-oriented economy? So we have to place the structure of the teacher's salary in stark alignment with the policy advancement of the country. And that's why JTA cannot be a silent organization. That's why we have to be strident about this. Yes?
I'm going to give you a couple of, I'm going to ask you for give you a couple of responses since we got in a few.
Sure.
Dr. Renee Level says, well said, Dr. Henry. I think Dr. Level is in guidance and counseling. She said, well said when you were outlining your previous thing. Owen Richards said, the tenure of the JTA president should be at least 2 years, should at least be 2 years. And Jennifer Gale says, the JTA is an intellectual ghetto full of political activists. Give me a response to that latter.
That last response is perhaps something that cannot be glossed over. There is a view, unfortunate view, that JTA is a political organization. The JTA is aligned to a certain party, and the JTA is obstructionist. I want to appease caution here, because the JTA, which blossomed in the early 1960s, yes? When the JTA was formed in the 1960s, there were significant reforms taking place in the post-independence period of Jamaica. And JTA played a critical role. In fact, the formation of the Education Act and the promulgation of the Code of Regulations in 1980, embedded in that, is the work of the JTA, and several reforms that took place year after year, decade after decade beyond that. So it would be sad to subsume and to relegate the JTA as an intellectual ghetto. I reject the view that the JTA is an intellectual ghetto. We have over 18,000 members, 18,000 of our educators. We cannot refer to our educators as intellectual ghetto. It is reprehensible. I'm not saying the JTA is beyond critique, but I'm saying that the agitation of the JTA must be respected, because the JTA has been front and center in the overall development of the education system as it stands. So I defend the JTA as it stands where that is concerned.
Jamaica Swaby says, well said, Dr. Henry. We, the teachers, trust you with our affairs. That is, I suppose, one of your supporters. Desmond, if you don't have any, I'm going to press on. I wanted to ask him, if you are elected next month and the elections are between June 15 and 19, I didn't hear what you said. I was asking you, if you are elected next month, Dr. Henry, as president-elect to take office the following year, what specific action should teachers and the nation expect from Darien Henry? What specific action?
Thank you for that, Franklin. Let me just first say that the Jamaica Teachers Association is part of a trade union and part of a professional development body. However, we have to assert the rightful place of the Jamaica Teachers Association in the fabric called education in this country. I'm also going to assert that.
Sorry, before you have said that. I just want to, and I don't want to slow your speed, but you have said that. But doesn't the JTA have an arrangement for a monthly meeting with the Minister of Education where they can bring their issues forward? Yes. Don't they have negotiations directly with the Ministry of Finance? When you say assert their influence and assert their intellectual power and whatever it is, what do you mean?
What I mean here is that JTA has to pivot around strategic advocacy. And as I've consistently stated, JTA too has to evolve, because the space is evolving as well. The political space is evolving. The negotiating space is evolving as well. How the JTA asserted itself in the last few years will have to evolve as well, because the political environment has changed. So it means that there has to be far more diplomacy, far more dialogue, far more alignment with national development. The JTA must not be seen as an obstruction to national development. That's what I'm saying. But rather, we are to be seen as a partner, a key partner in national development. So those monthly discussions around which the JTA has with the Ministry of Education and also the Ministry of Finance, when there's a salary discussion and all of that, it must take that tenure, strategic alignment, strategic discussions around advancing national development. I must say this though, Franklin, that in 2027 will be the year that the JTA will be submitting a new claim to the Ministry of Finance. And the truth is, preparing this claim will require national intervention here. Because as I mentioned before, if we do not deal with the condition, the teaching conditions of our teachers, the conditions of work, if we don't address those, we're going to see hemorrhage after hemorrhage from the teaching profession. It cannot happen without it, Franklin. So when those discussions arise, we have to pursue the pathway whereby we're far more tactical at the discussion table. We're far more purposeful at the discussion table. We bring the lived experiences in such a way and in such a compelling voice that they understand what the future of education means. I mentioned earlier, Franklin, that there is a discussion. There are discussions now happening in the Ministry of Education around the 2025-2035 educational strategic plan. Yeah, and I'm saying that there has to be far more girth around those discussions. Where is the JTA in those discussions? I heard you last week that the ministry don't have to listen to the JTA. I am positing that the ministry must listen to the JTA. If it doesn't, it is going to make a monumental error. And we're trying to grow our country, but when our teachers are left out of the loop and are paid like paupers, and we wonder, where is the education system? Where is the quality? What is going to happen? I heard a discussion last week from Capri. Yeah, and I have to talk about it because Capri is stating that 82%.
And just to tell people that Capri is a think tank which deals with.
It is a think tank, yes. And I've read all their reports for the last 10 or so years. They produce very good reports with excellent recommendations. However, I have to take issue with some of the findings last week because their argument is that we're spending like a rich country. We're still underpaying teachers, but we're spending like a rich country, but the value is not being yielded. What the report did not tell you is that the teachers are creating miracles in the schools as we speak with very limited resources, with the behavior and the maladaptive behaviors of our children and those children who are presenting with far more psychosocial maladies, children who are presenting with far more special education needs that are being untested, they are going unnoticed, and they are being funneled through the education system all the way to secondary, and we spend $1.2 billion every so often at secondary to try to fix those issues. If we don't fix it early, I'm saying we're going to be in trouble. So the think tank, yes, it has calculated, but I'm saying it misses some important points about how value is achieved in the education system.
Dr. Henry, you said earlier that you want to make sure that the JTA is not seen as obstructionist. But from what I'm hearing you saying, exerting the influence, being more aggressive, you are suggesting a presidency that's going to be up in their faces. Is that one way to look at it?
But you're a journalist, you know how to coin your words and so on. So I won't be tied up and tangled up in all of that. I am saying that the JTA that they will see under my presidency will be something that they have never seen before. I'm saying
let me just tell you, as you say that, Mr. Henry, sure. I say Katie and Scott said, well said, President in waiting. Pointing Leeds Primary School says, waiting on your presidency and looking forward even. Yes, sir. So you are suggesting that you're going to be bringing something different. I want to ask. Yes, go ahead. Sorry, I'm sorry.
I don't want to lose a point, Franklin. As I travel the 14 parishes, as I travel those 78 days and interact with teachers, our members are also calling for fresh leadership in the JTA. Many of our members have become disillusioned with the JTA, and the JTA has a role to re-engage with its grassroots. I can't be a presidency who doesn't engage with the grassroots. So while you engage with the policymakers, we have to also at the same time engage with the grassroots, because teachers, while it is that they continue to telegraph issues around conditions of work and so on, they're turning the spotlight on JTA itself. So when I go to represent the teachers, I'm saying I'm standing for teachers. I'm standing as an intellectual voice for teachers. I'm standing as a strategic and robust voice for teachers, while at the same time re-engaging and re-energizing the base as well. Because if we don't energize our grassroots base, then the future of education is going to be in doubt and in jeopardy. So the point I'm making, Franklin, I'm looking for this alignment, and it has to happen. So that's why I bring freshness to the table. This is where transformational leadership becomes ever so important. Yes, so it's necessary at such a time.
You should. One of the things, Doc, is that you should be mindful of is that, remember that we are in a political environment, you know. A strong president is going to be accused as being an obstructionist by supporters of the party. That you, in other words, if the JLP in power now, if you orchestrate policies that are, robust, you will be seen as a PNP man. If the PNP is in power and you orchestrate those policies, you'll be seen as a JLP man. We are in a political environment. Don't be mindful of that. Now, the thing that I think you should be mindful of is the output, because right now, teachers' salaries, classroom teacher salaries are low, but the output that I'm talking about, the students are coming out of school illiterate. I would like to hear the JTA president I'm waiting is what you intend to do about that if elected.
He's not the JTA. Oh, good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
If elected, thank you. If elected.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay, good. I want to make this point very clear, and I'll address the other part of your question. I'm not a political henchman. I'm an educator, yes, respected educator. I make myself available because I think I can contribute to advancing education through the JTA and bringing the welfare of teachers to the table. And I won't forget that part of it, and I don't want anybody to forget that while we attend to the other issues, the issues affecting teachers will not get attention. It must, as it stands. Now, you touched on the area of accountability, and there's no question in my mind that teachers must accept their share of responsibility for improving outcomes as they are. However, the education space has changed. There are far more different expectations and realities happening in the classroom now more than ever. The teachers will tell you right as we speak, yes, that learning challenges have become almost the norm, and they themselves do not have the therapeutic and the qualification necessary to diagnose as it stands. Yeah. So there's a special education issue going on as we speak, you know. And by the way, as a board chairman of a special education school as we speak, I can be very plain about it. How we treat special education, as a matter of fact, is a travesty. Many other countries, even in the Caribbean here, they're moving up pace to make sure that maladies affecting students as they move through the system, they're getting attention. What are we doing? Yes, we're doing the integration. Yes, we're doing the inclusion. But where is the policy prescription around it? Where are the policy prescription? And I keep asking about it. Yes, where are the special education teachers? Franklin, you know that when the special teachers graduate, them just do 2 years into the system and them gone because Canada want them. Israel want them, everywhere want them. Why we don't want them? Why is it that our special education system is treated like a bastard child? Why? So the point I'm making here is that teachers are not afraid of taking accountability and responsibility. But in the same breath, the education system needs recalibration. If we don't recalibrate, all this talk about the reforms in education will mean nothing.
Okay, sir. I'm going to give you a couple more responses, and then I want to ask you a question there. Fulvian Nugent says, "Tell them, Dr. Henry, the problems affecting teachers are far more than what is at the surface." And then Lewis says, "Listen to reasoning and wisdom." And then we see Ina Barclay from somebody from Ina Barclay Academy of Excellence, which is named after a former JTA president. Yes, special education services are required, and they are a good special education unit. Fulvian Nugent says, "True, don't need the color to be color coded." And from the Ina Barclay Academy, we are no bastards. All we need is resources with love. Well said.
That's right.
Dr. Henry, I need to ask you something. You mentioned the special education. I'm glad that you did it without being nudged by us, because it's one of the questions I have to ask you. But basic school, early childhood education, that has been treated very badly as well over the years. And I put it to your opposite number last week, the other candidate, Dr. Nugent, as to why aren't the people in the basic schools, the teachers, brought in to the JTA, and why aren't they represented more strongly? I'd love to hear your response to that.
Well, as you know, Franklin, basic schools do not fall under the direct remit of the Ministry of Education, but are supervised by the Early Childhood Commission. We have our infant departments attached to primary schools, etc., as it stands. The truth is, and by the way, I twin special education and early childhood education. So when I speak one of the other, because if we are to be serious about improving outcomes, then early childhood education and special education must move from the margins of policy discussions. Yes, we yap our mouths around improving early childhood education. And yes, I heard the minister saying that each basic school will have a trained teacher come September 1. However, we have to move early childhood education and special education to the center of educational planning. And that's why I'm saying that the proposed education strategic plan, it has to be bold and resolute around largely what happens in the early years of education. I say this quickly, Franklin.
But JTA has been really leading on that, Dr. Henry.
Well, that's why I'm coming to the fore. Orlando Patterson, in his 2021 report, he's arguing, and I disagree with the learned professor, that we should shift resources from tertiary and put it squarely at early childhood education. I do not agree. The country, at where it is now, it must ride and whistle. Fix early childhood, fix special education, and ride and whistle with tertiary education. Because what the early system produces is what the end stage of the system will produce for the workforce. And we have to get this. The policy shifts must happen now. So this means, Franklin, that there has to be better trained early childhood practitioners, improved compensation, what they pay some of the teachers there. It is abysmal.
Disgraceful.
It is a disgrace, a national disgrace. Yes, we have to have stronger quality assurance systems. I did hear out of the early childhood conference last week that they're forming a new committee to look at some of these systems as it stands. Too late, but at least the shower of rain is coming. And sustained investment in foundational literacy and numeracy. We're not serious about it, Franklin. And that's why when they seep into the primary level and the secondary level, we wonder what happened to the picnic them. We now place attention. Bahamas, all right. I'm not going to go to Singapore, or I'm not even going to go to Finland. In the Bahamas, and you should know this, Franklin, in the Bahamas, there is a national consensus early education, whether they're government sponsored or whether they are community based. The government plays a big role, and I'm saying the time has come for us to make a big shift. where early childhood is concerned. Equally important as well as special education, because the teachers will tell you that in addition to the resource issues that the children are presenting with learning disabilities, developmental delays, behavioral challenges all throughout the system, autism spectrum disorders, speech issues, and other exceptionalities in education. And I'm saying the time has come now for us to have a whole policy shift from the margins to the center. So that's why I'm disagreeing with Professor Orlando Patterson with this one.
All right, I've put a couple more comments that have come in. Dr. Henry will do a great job and bring meaningful transformation to the education system with strong leadership, vision, and a commitment to educational excellence. From the Ina Barkley Academy, I'm sure it's not on behalf of the Academy, maybe somebody coming from there. Please to separate special ed from ECI. They are saying to you, you mentioned that when you're talking about them, you're talking about them. So I don't know if you want to comment on that. And we have different needs. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And the truth is, the reforms in early childhood education are structural as well as they're conceptual. However, special education can never be taken out of the mix, because if we have disparate issues and if we have disparate ideologies, then the problems will not be diminished. So the truth is, my twinning or my combination of special education with the issues in early childhood education is very presumptuous, yes. However, if we are to be bold about the reforms that we're talking about, we have to talk front and center. So that is why.
All right. I'm going to ask you now. So, Dr. Henry, you have been on the road apparently. I know that the presidents go on the road. Dr. Maureen Nelson was telling us last week. She has also been on the road, and we did ask her the question about tertiary level people. I'm suggested to her that she's a big shot lecturer on the grassroots, and she rejected that comment, as you are rejecting that you are a principal and you don't know what's going on, because you have been on the road. You have been like a politician running the road, sir. But let me ask you, are you an underdog in this race, or are you the favorite?
I'm a candidate, duly nominated. I've been visiting various institutions, various schools across all levels around the country. The issues that I'm seeing that are facing our teachers, they're certainly not new in the context here. I present myself as the ideal candidate with the experience. I've been educated throughout all levels of the system. I've lived the walk of transformation. The system is not easy. However, if the right leadership is selected, then we're moving in the right direction. I don't see myself as an underdog. I'm a duly elected candidate. And I do believe that when teachers vote, they're going to vote Darien Henry, because they know that they have an authentic leader, someone who has their interest at heart, and while at the same time pushing forward the reforms necessary in the education system.
And just let me understand something from you, Dr. Henry. In the system as it exists now, would you accept that the government has been putting a lot of money in education, and there's not really, we're a poor country, and we really can't do much more? You're asking government to put more, build better school, build that. But we're a poor country. How do you respond to that suggestion? We are a poor country and government has done what it can.
No, Franklin, the people poor.
Let him answer, Desmond. Let him answer.
Right. I'm going to start by saying that based on our annual output of goods and services, we couldn't be classified as poor by all the development standards. The truth is, Franklin, we spend, the education budget is over $200 billion, and 80% of that goes to compensations. Goes to compensation. The truth is that we have a vision problem for our education system. We have a problem around how best to advance and resource and invest in the system. Our education system is pretty young. based on, pre and post colonial issues. We're still young. Ray Davis in 2004 and the Orlando Patterson report of 2021, it subsumes a lot of the issues as they are, and they've always put forward recommendations. We have to stop looking at education as a checkbox system. Oh, we fix part of a school, checkbox. We fix this, checkbox. We have to stop doing that. We have to see the education system as a full alignment with national development. And until we do that, we're going to always have this conversation around the spending education. There are some spending priorities that our policymakers will have to make some hard decisions on, and that will require transformational leadership as it stands. The education system can thrive, but they have to make the right decisions and spend the money and resources system in its rightful place. We have a foundational crisis, we have a teacher development and retention crisis, and a system that is not fully aligned to the 21st century realities. We have to get our house in order.
All right. Dr. Henry, I'm going to give you a minute to speak directly to the teachers about what you are bringing to the table and why they should vote for you. We offer that same position.
Thank you.
Before you go there, let me just mention Denise Brown saying, looking forward to your leadership, Dr. Henry, and from somebody from Ina Barkley Academy out there in St. Thomas is saying, I await a meeting with you as we could chart a path for a better future for persons in need of special educational services. Best wishes, Dr. Henry, they said.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So your pitch now too.
Very quickly, I seek the presidency because I think the JTA stands at a very critical moment in the fabric of education. Our teachers are facing growing challenges, and the association needs experienced and steady leadership that understands education policy and advocacy. Throughout my career, I've championed reforms in education and leadership and stronger institutions for better opportunities, not just for students, but for teachers as well. And I want to bring the same passion and the same experience to this national prestige. My commitment is very simple: to advocate for better working conditions for teachers, stronger professional support, and a more attractive career pathway for young people. The JTA must continue to be a bargaining body, but it also has to be a respected voice in shaping the future of education and influencing policy. As I close, Franklin, one of my favorite books is from Baruto Kafele. Is my school better because I lead it? So I often ask this question: will the JTA be a better association because I led it? My answer is a resolute yes. Not because of one individual, but because together with all the teachers, we can build a stronger profession, a stronger association, and a stronger education system. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Henry. That was Dr. Darien Henry. He's principal of Montego Bay Community College, and he's one of the two candidates for the election at JTA president. The elections will take place June 15 to 19 right across the country. It's shaping up to be a very interesting one. I think I've been told that teachers are quite motivated about the elections, and we will see how it goes. And Owen Richards, I see them pointing out that I should. Owen Richards says, visionary leadership awaits education. No, that's Arena R. Yes, visionary leadership awaits education. And Owen Richards says, before the end of the podcast, I hope we can get an update on the hurricane expenditure by the government. Sir Richards will not there today. Go ahead.
Dr. Henry, you are going to win. That's my prediction.
But last week you told Dr. Maureen Nelson the same thing. Desmond, you're too much.
Well, I am convinced that Dr. Henry is going to take the election.
All right, sir. Okay. You have been known to be a loser before, so let's see. And you have come through right on some of them. All right, but thank you again, Dr. Henry, and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Wish you and your opposite number the best. Okay. So now we are going to. I told you at the start of the program, and Mr. Richards wants to know what's happening to the hurricane relief. We don't have that, but and Mr. Richards, I will promise you that next week we will have this. But we're at the Rio Bueno Estate Village. Sorry, Rio Bueno Estate Village in St. Mary. That's where I am. I'm actually sitting at the Tiana Museum, and some of the stuff in the background is very treasured work artifacts. But earlier there was what was called a reasoning with Muta Baruka and Kabu. And both of them people know from Irie, and they have their. And I want to just bring you a little piece of Muta. We are supposed to be interviewing the owner of this place, and David Wilson. I'm hoping that we'll still be able to have a word with him. But we're going to just give you a little piece of Muta during the presentation earlier on these grounds. You want to try that for us, Mr. Joshua? Yes. We're not hearing though. Or is that me not hearing? Mr. Joshua, we're not hearing.
Not hearing.
No, we're still not hearing. All right, that experiment is failing. All right, we're sorry, viewers. Viewers and listeners, we wanted to give you a little piece of Muta, but we're not hearing anything. I want to also just mention a few more comments that came through. Leslie Thomas, congratulations, President in Waiting, and from Barclay Academy, thanks, sirs. And Carolyn Clark Brown is saying she agrees with Desmond's prediction. Desmond, one of the things that I know that you raised is this whole matter of land tenure, right? And you had some concerns about land capturing issue, or I don't know if even that language is the right way to put it. But can you just make those comments before we wrap up?
Yes. So far we have not heard from the government what it intends to do about for the landless in Jamaica. You listeners and viewers will be reminded that this issue of land tenure, landlessness, was came up during the hurricane, because as you know, many people in Westmoreland were living on lands that were not theirs. I don't know. We haven't heard anything about this. And the last count you have over 600,000.
When you say we haven't heard anything about it, Desmond, give me what would you be expecting to hear about it?
Well, we expect to hear what the government is going to do about the land issue for people in Westmoreland, right? Those people who are living on lands that were not theirs. What is going to be done for them? And so far, because there's some difficulty providing benefits, or so we were told, for people who didn't own their own land, and many people don't want to leave those areas. And we know it's not just in Westmoreland, but we know Westmoreland has a significant problem in that area. Yes. Well, as you know, this issue is island-wide. The landless issue is island-wide. And so far, I have not heard any policy from the government to address this issue. And as you know, that we, the black people in this country, we work this land. Our forefathers worked this land for over 400 years for free. And we are expecting the government, which is a black government, to make some provisions for us. We have not heard anything. And I am appealing to the government to remember that these are voters, PNP and JLP voters. It's time for us to do something for them.
And Desmond, in your way of thinking, what would you be? I'm not putting the onus on you. I mean, it's a matter that government should do. But what suggestion would you be having in mind?
Land must be made accessible to people, right? Mm-hmm. That is what I am urging. I'm asking for. People must be able to access land.
Robert Montague, the MP for West St. Thomas, is a man who is supposed to be handling, don't know if you'd call it land reformation, because that's not really the portfolio, but perhaps, and I just said, then perhaps I'm going to make an attempt. I did send him a note last week, but I did not hear back from him. When you mentioned it, this is an area that we should talk about. Let's send him a note, and we'll take it on. But it's such an overwhelming thing, Desmond, and it's been so it's been out there so long that I don't even know whether it is government considers it's too big an issue to take on. Because we learned years ago, didn't we, that roughly 1 million Jamaicans were living informally on lands or squatting on lands. And nothing has been done to that overall picture. So, and I haven't heard any specific policy prescriptions from the opposition side to it, or anything coming out of government, or anything coming out of any other think tanks. So maybe we should put it down ourselves as an issue to take on. And in the
yes.
All right. I want to say that's our show for today. We want to thank our special guest, Dr. Darien Henry, and keep coming in from him. There's one there from Point Hill Least Primary. I want to thank Dr. Henry, who is principal of Montego Bay Community College and candidate for the president-elect, JTA president-elect, for sharing time and thoughts with us today. I have a comment on my phone, which somebody is asking, what is this president? Why we don't say president? But they elect a president-elect now, this year, and that person is proclaimed as a president-elect at their conference in August, their annual conference in August, and then that person becomes president in the next year. That would be next year, I think, 2027 will become president. And so there are 3 presidents functioning at one time in the JTA, the immediate past president, the sitting president, and the president-elect. Within they function together, they work together, but the president is the one who has a profile and carries through. Thanks to our viewers, your viewers and listeners. Remember to like and share this podcast and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so yet. You can watch this program again at your leisure by clicking the link to the podcast or going to the Frankly Speaking Jamaica YouTube channel. It's episode 212. Thanks to Desmond Richards and producer and graphic artist Joshua Black Media Services. Let me say thanks to David Wilson, proprietor of the beautiful Rio Nuevo Village, for hosting the Frankly Speaking podcast this afternoon. He was very busy, couldn't move around. It's a beautiful place, and I'm sure some of you will come and see it. He says he's going to make it attractive and affordable for Jamaicans. Again, on behalf of all of us, I'm Franklin McKnight, as we leave you with our farewell song.
The mics I live, we're feeling that energy that Sunday drive. Whether you're here while the clock is ticking or catching the replay, the plot is thickening. From the very first word to the final thought, you're the reason for every battle we fought. Oh, to our zealots, the ones who stay and have the screen. You're the heartbeat of the Frankly Speaking scene. We see you, we hear you, we appreciate the love. You're the spark we're always thinking of.